Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Number 2, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Gulf Coast Office Products. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. It was a really busy weekend in sports for LSU. Of course, the gymnastics squad, huge win over Oklahoma. Got softball with another winning weekend. Baseball gets off to a great start with a sweep. Huge women's basketball game on Sunday in Austin, where LSU just couldn't quite get it to the finish line against the Longhorns, who have secured some pretty impressive wins over the last couple of weeks, where they beat South Carolina and then beat LSU both in Austin. But also scoring a win this weekend was the LSU men's basketball team, and it was pretty unlikely. Not because they haven't won in a month, because they were trailing late. And Cam Carter just took the game over. And it was as Herculean a single effort as I have seen in an LSU basketball game in quite some time. It kind of gave me the vibes of like Tremont Waters, his freshman year, throwing shots in against Texas A&M in College Station. He hit 2 from the parking lot to beat them. But this kind of had those types of vibes. And we know that Cam Carter is the best player on this team. We know that LSU needs him to be great to even have a chance at winning some games in this very difficult league. And he would just put the Superman cape on Saturday evening in Norman. And this is what it sounded like on the LSU Sports Radio Network.
Williams to put it in play. Inbounds to Carter up top. 18 on the shot clock. He'll launch a 3. He's fouled, and it's good. Jalen Moore comes out to foul Cam Carter. String music here in Norman, Oklahoma, and a possible 4-point play. Deep in the backcourt. Here comes the trap. Throws across the middle. Stolen by Givens. Givens has the ball for LSU with 13 seconds. Down 1. Here's Carter. Driving down the lane. Layup. Good! Yeah. And a whistle. And a foul. Hey now. 80-79. LSU leads by 1 with 8.4 seconds. Luke Northweather checked in. He's going to be the specialist to try to throw it down the floor. It's broken up by Givens. Horn sounds, and this one's in the books. Tigers get the win. They snap their 7-game losing streak here on the road in Norman. Coming from behind.
It was incredible. LSU down 5, under 30 seconds to play. And Porter Moser, Oklahoma's coach, said in the postgame they were in a no-jump defense, meaning we're going to defend. We're not going to jump to contest shots. And Jalen Moore, a senior, jumped up and fouled Cam Carter, which is just unconscionably dumb. I don't know how you can do that, but he did, and LSU will certainly take it. And then LSU got into the trap, and Oklahoma made another terrible decision and winged it across the court, and Curtis Givens picked it off. And credit to Curtis Givens, a freshman. Because you're losing by 5, Cam gets the 4-point play, you're down 1. It's a chaos situation. There's a trap on the floor, and you steal it. And what is your instinct at that point? There's, 14 seconds to go in the game? You're down 1, and you get the ball on a sudden change? Your instinct is going to be go to the rim. Like, that would have been my instinct, to get the ball and try to go score. What was Curtis Givens' instinct? Where is Cam Carter? That was his instinct. That's a good instinct, because Cam Carter was taking the game over, and Givens intercepted the ball, looked around, found Carter at the top of the key, and got the heck out of the way. And Carter hit the crossover, got right to the rim, and won. Awesome move. And you realize that LSU is now 2-10 in league play. The 2 wins, Cam Carter went nuts, scored 27 points, went 10 of 10 from the free throw line against Arkansas. And then on Saturday, he has 29 points. He made 5 of his 10 threes, 10 of 17 shooting. He was Superman. And that's what LSU has to have to win. LSU is a one-pitch pitcher. It's Cam Carter being really, really good.
But I don't even think it's just that, too. You also have to have a performance from somebody else that you don't expect, which LSU got from Damian Collins in this game.
Yeah. I mean, he was great. He had 22 points, was 5 of 7 from the free throw line, 8 of 10 from the floor. He also blocked 4 shots. He was great. But if Cam Carter doesn't score 25, 30 points, LSU's not going to win very often in the league, if ever. And he did. Now, also want to credit LSU, a couple different aspects here. One, for the second consecutive game, LSU limited their turnovers. They only turned the ball over 9 times in this game. They only turned the ball over 9 times back in the midweek last week. So they're getting better from a turnover perspective. And you look at what Oklahoma was able to do off the turnovers, they weren't able to create a lot of buckets like teams have. They only had 6 points off of LSU's 9 turnovers. That's where LSU has gotten beaten, and they were good here. LSU forced Jeremiah Fears into a mediocre game. He was 5 of 15. I wrote this at Louisiana Sports on that. We didn't talk about this game on Friday. We didn't preview it because I was at the box. We were talking baseball, and I didn't feel like we were going to water things down with a team that had lost 7 games in a row. But one of the things I wrote for LouisianaSports.net in my preview was when Oklahoma wins, Jeremiah Fears averages like 19 points. When they lose, he averages like 9. And he scored 15 in this game, but it took him 15 shots to get 15 points. He was 5 of 15 from the floor. So I thought that was really good for LSU. So, look, Jai Bailey did his thing and honestly outperformed what he generally does because he made all 3 of his threes. That's not necessarily his strength, but teams leave him open, and he did make his 3 threes in the game. LSU shot 40% essentially from three-point range, 39.3%. And Oklahoma had a dismal day shooting the basketball from deep. They were 3 for 18 in the game. Now, Oklahoma got to the foul line. They shot 32 free throws. They made 26 of those free throws. That's generally going to be a recipe to lose, especially when you're LSU on the flip side. And LSU was 17 of 30 from the free throw line for 57%. 3 weeks ago, LSU was the number 1 free throw shooting team in the SEC. They've been awful for 3 straight games. And some of it is guys missing shots. Some of it is getting the wrong guys to the foul line. But look, Curtis Givens was 1 of 5, and Victorious Miller was 4 of 8 on free throws. That's 5 of 13 from your 2 freshman guards. They've got to be better than that from the charity stripe. But this game ultimately came down to guts, heart, determination, and Cam Carter being unwilling to be stopped. Like, he just wasn't going to be denied. And that's what you're going to have to get for LSU to compete. And you don't have a lot of games that LSU will be less than a 7 to 9 point dog the rest of the way. Certainly on Tuesday, tomorrow, you'll be fine because South Carolina is yet to win a game. So you're not going to be a huge dog in that game, maybe a favorite in that game. But the rest of the way, you got Florida, you got Tennessee, you got Kentucky, you got Mississippi State, you got Texas A&M. Like, it's a bunch of top 15 teams. And so for LSU to get this one, I'm just thrilled for the team because you talk about getting up early, going to workouts, going to practice, going to study hall, going to class, flying late at night, all those. It's a grind. And when there's no positive reinforcement in terms of wins and losses, that can be really tough. And these guys keep fighting. And they did on Saturday. And I've said this a lot of times. I don't like talking about LSU teams fighting because I want to talk about LSU teams winning. We're not putting participation trophies around anybody's, or medals around anybody's neck, trophies on anybody's trophy case. But I'm just calling it like I see it. You lose 7, 8, 9 games in a row, it could be easy to take your foot off the gas pretty quick. And LSU did the exact opposite of that on Saturday. Down 5, under 30 seconds to go. Carter makes the play. You get into the trap. Givens gets the steal, doesn't panic, gets the ball to Carter, does the right thing, get a bucket. LSU gets the stop on the other end, and you win the ball game. I think Porter Moser may be in some trouble in Norman based on their conference record and losing games like that at home. But LSU gets a win. in Norman. The final score was 82-79 in about as dramatic a game as you will see. So that's some LSU basketball there, but we're not done with LSU basketball. We're not going to talk about this game anymore, but Shea Dixon did some reporting over at On3, and he put some numbers to name, image, and likeness. And he laid out what the future for LSU basketball looks like in the short term. And I want to react to all that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show. This is The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Monday show is brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products. Shea Dixon over at the Bengal Tiger, good friend of mine, friend of the show, friend of the really the whole station here, on with Charlie every single week for LSU game day as well during football season. Did some great reporting over at the Bengal Tiger and has published a piece up there on their site right now. I highly recommend you go check it out, but I was reading it at the top of the hour. And it's titled Sources, LSU Backing Matt McMahon, Focus Turns to Building on NIL. And it's exactly, the story tells you exactly what it says there in the headline, that yes, this year has been rough. Yes, this is year 3. Yes, there were expectations to have a strong basketball season that resulted in an NCAA tournament team this year, and that's not going to happen. There may be a 3-win, 15-loss team in the SEC. And it would stand to reason that in year 3, if you're second to last in the league, which they're ticketed for at this point, like that's not a lot of progress. And I understand that's the temperature around this thing. But as Shea writes, LSU is going to stick with Matt McMahon, and they're going to increase their commitment to NIL fundraising for basketball. And Shea writes that, like, look, Matt McMahon, before signing on to be the LSU head coach, was 31-3 and 18-0 in league play at Murray State. They were a 7 seed in the NCAA tournament. He built that program that included a few years of John Morant, but he, for 7 years, had good teams at Murray State. And LSU feels like, with the right resources, he can compete and build a winner in Baton Rouge. Now, Shea has specific numbers in this story. Says that LSU ranked 13th of 14 SEC programs entering last season, ahead of only South Carolina. And you see where South Carolina is. LSU's budget was just short of $2 million for basketball. Ole Miss and Mississippi State are both north of $5 million. These are numbers that I've been told as well, and I have reason to believe that Auburn and Alabama are closer to $8 or $9 million that they have invested in their basketball teams. And you see that those are the top 2 teams in the country. It's very difficult to compete against $7 or $8, $9 million when you've got 1.5. That's just simple. It's hard to compete in poker like that. It's hard to compete in Monopoly like that. It's hard to compete in basketball like that. He who has the gold makes the rules, right? And we heard Brian Kelly get up there and say last summer, like, we're not going to buy players. And he switched on that mid-season this year and said, that was stupid to say. We're going to go buy all the players we can in the transfer portal. That's the name of this game. And whether it needs to be done from the coach fundraising or the fundraisers that be at Bayou Traditions or wherever to go do it on behalf of the coach, one way or another, the money's got to flow in. Now, what I cannot speak to, and I didn't see this in Shea's piece, I don't know if when they say they're going to increase their commitment to basketball, let's just use round numbers, and this is not Shea's reporting, this is me spitballing on a talk radio show. Let's say that LSU wants to go from $2 million on the basketball team to $5 million. The question that I would have is this $3 million new dollars that need to come in? Or are you taking 1.5 from football and 1.5 from baseball to make your 3 for basketball? That's a question, and I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how any of that works. I'm so comfortable sitting here telling you about the decision-making that LSU made in the last 2 minutes of that basketball game on Saturday. I'm so comfortable evaluating LSU's freshman pitchers over the weekend. I feel like I know what I'm talking about. I have an opinion. I have a historical perspective, and I can offer you information and opinion that I think is reasonable. I have no idea how some of this behind-the-scenes NIL stuff works. I just don't know. So I have a hard time analyzing it and knowing who to criticize or what side to take. Like, I'm just being honest with you. I don't know. My guess is if you polled 50 LSU fans, if you told them, do you want to take $2 million out of the football budget and $1 million out of the baseball budget to put it into men's basketball, I'm guessing the majority of those fans would say no. Leave it with football, leave it with baseball. That's what I think. But I don't know if Bayou Traditions is capable of just going to get the extra $3 million and not touching anything that baseball and football have. I don't know. So, like, how am I supposed to evaluate that? I don't know whether or not it's Matt McMahon's responsibility to get out there and shake those trees and make that money come in, or if it's somebody else's job and he's just got to deal with the amount of money that he's got. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how aggressive he is in raising money. And so how am I supposed to evaluate that? The easy thing to evaluate is there what looks like it's going to be a 3-15 record. That's easy to evaluate, and that's not good enough. The answer to why they're 3-15 is more complicated. How much is NIL? How much is motivation from the coach? How much is Jalen Reed getting hurt? How much is Tyrell Ward quitting? I don't know. I don't know some of those things. And that's what makes this a little bit tougher. In a pre-NIL system, you could just say, well, the product's not good enough. But a great coach playing with essentially one hand behind his back because he doesn't have the money is not going to be able to compete in this era. That's just the facts. And so clearly LSU, who does have access to all this information that I'm telling you that I don't, they know how aggressive he is in fundraising. They know whose job it is to do the fundraising. They know how that's gone. And they know where this extra money has got to come from. And with all that information that they have that I don't have, they're suggesting we're going to stick with Matt McMahon and we're going to get more aggressive with NIL fundraising. He's got 3 guys signed in this class. He's got a point guard, he's got a shooting guard, and he's got a forward. Gilhul, Mosley, and Reese. And then you got to go in the portal because you're going to lose Jordan Sears. You're going to lose Cam Carter. Those guys are going to be moving on for eligibility reasons. And then you'll see what the rest of the guys kind of do that you count on. What does Victorious Miller do? What does Curtis Givens do? What does Robert Miller do? Is Jalen Reed ready to come back? Not going to have, what does Damian Collins do? I don't know. It's hard to, you can't really determine what the roster is going to look like next year, but you can commit to spending more on it. And then the last part of this whole thing is, why are they making this decision ultimately? Is it because they feel like Matt McMahon is the guy to get the job done and they have to back him more? Or is it because it's less expensive to beef up that NIL spend than it is to buy out the coaching staff and go hire a new one? And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But Shay's got interesting numbers there that suggest that LSU is the bottom of the barrel in NIL spending in basketball. They're committed to putting more resources into it, and they think Matt McMahon's the guy that can coach them out of it. And I don't know what the answer is there. I was comfortable with the trajectory going from whatever it was in year one to that 9-9 team in year two. This has been really disappointing. But I also understand that if you massively cut the budget, which in this case is not cutting it, it's just not stacking up, you're going to have almost an impossible time winning in this era of collegiate athletics. So I like Matt McMahon a lot. He's always been great to me. I interview him once a year on the pregame show for LSU for football, and he's been awesome. He's a great guy, and he did a good job coaching last year's team. Everyone knows, including him, that this year is not good enough. And if the fix is we just got to spend some more money on it, well, let's see how that works. And I'm curious what that looks like as far as transfers that LSU can land to upgrade this thing. Because you can turn it in an instant, in one off season, if you push the right buttons. You don't have to build slowly anymore. I know this is going to be year 4 for him, but you can get 3 massive impact guys just by dropping a bag. And we'll see if LSU is willing to play in those waters. Shea Dixon's reporting that they are. It just kind of remains to be seen, I guess. So that's your look at LSU basketball, man. According to Shea Dixon's reports, we'll be back. LSU got to spend some more money. Can't be last like LSU and South Carolina and Oklahoma currently are. They're the bottom 3 teams in the SEC standings. It's not a coincidence. Looking for basketball content, you can find it on our Hoops with Hunt stream. Find that on wherever you find your podcast. Just search Hoops with Hunt. All our basketball content is there all year long. When we come back, LSU got eyes on a 4-star wide receiver from Texas with Louisiana ties. We'll tell you who and what LSU's shots are to land him. That's all coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is the website. You golfer? Got any golfers in your house? How about a golf simulator? They do it at Audio Video Security Solutions. Mitchell Fisher and his team love installing those golf simulators. Got to have a little bit of room, and you got to go get the simulator. But once you make that happen, Mitchell Fisher and his team are happy to install it for you. Makes it so easy to practice, play games. I love hitting on those golf simulators. You can play Augusta or Pebble Beach. Just work on your game. If you're looking to do that, call Mitchell Fisher. Say, hey, I'm not really sure where to start with this whole golf simulator thing. Can you help with that? They'd be happy to. You can check them out online at avssla.com. Their Instagram is always a great resource as well. AVSS_BR is the Instagram feed. Give them a follow. Check out some of their awesome content they've got over there on the gram. It's Mitchell Fisher and his team. Great local company. Been fantastic to us in the Palmer House, and they can be the exact same for you. It's Audio Video Security Solutions. Check them out online, avssla.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
A little bit of football recruiting here. Recruiting never sleeps, ever. And in some cases, the process gets moved along very, very quickly, and that's been the case for a elite prospect out of DeSoto, Texas, Ethan Booby Feaster, a wide receiver, consensus top 10 wide receiver in the country. Some think a top 10 player in the state of Texas, who was a 2027 prospect, but is now reclassified to 2026, which means he could theoretically sign in this coming December and enroll 11 months from now in 2026. And he's got roots in Louisiana. He, of course, as I mentioned, he plays at DeSoto in Texas, but he considers himself from Louisiana. So he was talking with Chad Simmons, who's with On3, said he's got an official visit set up to Southern Cal in June. LSU will be June 20th. And then he's got Texas and Texas A&M as well. That's the top 4. So you've got the 2 in-state programs in Texas and Texas A&M. You've got the team out west in USC, and then you've got LSU. He told Chad Simmons that's probably the only visits that he's going to take. He quoted here in the story saying, I'm from Louisiana, love the staff at LSU. A lot of the staff is from Louisiana. They're not looking to leave, and that's important. Coaches are leaving a lot now for the NFL, so what staff is expected to be there and stay there, that means a lot. So that's a good thing to hear, because you feel like LSU's Louisiana guys are kind of in it for the long haul. I don't see Frank Wilson and Brad Davis moving along really quickly. I mean, they kind of have the job that they want. It's in their hometown or home state in Wilson's case. And Wilson's already done the head coaching thing now back at LSU. He'd have to take a pretty sizable pay decrease to go back and be like an FCS head coach like he was at McNeese. So you feel, I don't know how long Joe Sloan's going to be at LSU. I don't know how long Cortez Hankton's going to be at LSU. But those two guys that are on LSU staff should be there for the long haul. And so we'll see. That could be a feather in LSU's cap. Feaster is 6 feet tall. He's about 175 pounds. But keep in mind, like, he's supposed to be a high school junior right now. He's supposed to be a high school sophomore right now. And there's a lot of development that can go on. But he's really fast. He's really quick. And he's been uber productive there. LSU's got 2 commitments at wide receiver in the 2026 class in Ja'Kai Anderson and Kenny Darby. Both of them are from inside the state. And then you're looking at Jabari Mack, who's also in the state right now. Shea writes on 3 that LSU is in the mix for a top receiver in the country in Tristan Keys. But you've got to continue to bring in these elite level wide receivers. Like, every position on the field is important, and certainly you got to win the line of scrimmage, you got to tackle, you got to rush the passer, you got to get a passer. LSU's restocked the shelves at running back pretty well with this class they just brought in with Harlan Berry and JT Lindsey, but you've got to have dudes on the outside who are difference makers and playmakers. I mean, you look at the team that just won the Super Bowl and the Eagles, like, that's a team that's just loaded with studs. You look at Ohio State, just won the national championship, bringing in Jeremiah Smith and going through the wide receivers that they have. And you know how good LSU's offense was 2 years ago with the elite wide receiver play that they got from guys who were tearing it up on the next level. You've got to continue to bring in big-time wide receivers, and those guys can get to the field quickly. I mean, how many times do we hear 17 years old at Alabama, 17 years old at Alabama, 17 years old? You can get to the field, and if you're a stud, you can play quickly. And the thought is that Feaster is that. I know LSU feels good about Ja'Kai Anderson as well as Kenny Darby. Darby said he's shut down his recruitment. We'll see. It doesn't appear that's imminent for Feaster. He's going to take those 4 visits to those 4 schools. You know what can happen when Texas and Texas A&M get involved. Okay, we've seen this a lot over the years. So I've told y'all this time and time again. Like, I don't necessarily get too caught up in commitments and all that kind of stuff. Just show me when the ink is dry. When the ink dries, I'll react. Because you can do Bryce Underwood thing all day long. You can do Decorian Moore things all day long. But it is important that you continue to restock the shelves with elite high school players. And that happens. I just don't have to follow every single twist and turn like I probably did 15 years ago. So Feaster is going to be a guy that we're paying attention to from a little bit of afar. It's going to take a little bit of time, but he's declared his top 4. LSU very much in the mix, and they're looking to put together a kind of a big class in terms of numbers at wide receiver in this 2026 cycle, and Boobie Feaster very much is involved in that. So we'll keep you updated as we learn more. Shout out to the folks over at the Bengal Tiger on 3 for doing all of that reporting. It's some really good stuff on their site today. Highly suggest you get on by and check out what they're doing over there at the Bengal Tiger. All right, let's talk a little bit more baseball. LSU over the weekend got a 3-game sweep of Purdue-Fort Wayne. You go into a 5-game week this week, and you've got tomorrow, you've got Southern at the box, 2 o'clock, right in the middle of this show. So you got Southern at the box. Then you go to Thibodeau on Wednesday to play Nichols. You have got the option of using some of your real dudes in these games because you did not see Gavin Guidry, Connor Ware, or Zach Cowan over the weekend. And Jay Johnson said, like, those guys are going to throw 50-plus innings for us, and they didn't even get on the mound. And I was asked on Twitter earlier, like, hey, why didn't those guys pitch? Like, Doghouse? No, here's the deal. I think that Jay Johnson was probably saving Gavin Guidry and Connor Ware for high leverage late game innings, which could theoretically come at any point. They just didn't. And then when you built 8, 9, 10 run leads in the late innings, it was a great opportunity at that point to get William Schmidt some seasoning, to get Maverick Rizzi some seasoning, to get Cooper Williams some seasoning, to get Kason Evans some seasoning. You let those freshmen get out there in low leverage spots and see what they can do. And they all performed phenomenally, and it was the perfect spot to get them into. You don't need to ramp Gavin Guidry up. Gavin Guidry got the last out of the national championship game 2 years ago. He's gotten big outs for 2 years. He doesn't need the seasoning. Connor Ware's an old dude, junior college starter. He's not new to the college baseball scene. He's going to be new to the box, and it'll be a different experience for him when he does that. But you didn't need to go to those guys. I would expect you will see them over the course of the next 2 days. I don't know in what capacity or for how long, but it's not like you've got this monster coming up on the weekend. I told y'all back in the first hour, Omaha is who LSU plays this coming weekend. Omaha went to Tulane over the weekend and got swept, and they were not competitive in any of the games. They gave up like 33, 34 runs over 3 games and got swept. And Tulane's not that great. So you're talking about another bad team coming in this weekend. You don't need to save Ware or Cowan or Guidry. My guess is that you get a start from Zach Cowan tomorrow. Maybe they save him for a Nichols team that's better than Southern coming up on Wednesday. We'll find out. We'll get the lineup for tomorrow's game basically right as we're going on air at 1 o'clock, and then we'll go into that on tomorrow's show. But it's fascinating that LSU got through those games and didn't use the guys that we considered the top bullpen arms. It just worked out that way, that you had an opportunity to go with a ramp up. Jay Johnson said, and it was interesting, back on Saturday, that he told Maverick Rizzi that there probably wasn't going to be a ramp up for him. Like, you may have to just go into a big spot for your first outing. They got lucky, well, fortunate, that they went out and hammered Purdue-Fort Wayne and created the opportunity that they could go ahead and get those guys some seasoning. But they were ready in a big spot, and they'll be ready in a big spot moving forward. We just don't know when that's going to come. The other thing I wanted to talk about was catching defense. I thought that LSU was okay catching defense. You did have the one wild pitch that got by Cade Arambidi to plate a run. That's one that I'd like to see the catcher block up. It was a tough play, but that did create a run. Other than that, they were pretty good blocking the ball and receiving the ball. It's not elite. It's not great, but it wasn't a disaster. I had concerns entering the weekend that it could be disastrous because I had seen enough scrimmages to know that, like, man, they're kind of fighting it a little bit behind the dish. And Jay's feeding those guys confidence, and he's playing a number of guys. You saw 2 starts over the weekend for Luis Hernandez, 1 for Cade Arambidi. Blaze Priester got in there and caught a little bit as well. So he's trying to keep guys as fresh as possible behind the dish, and I think you'll see that continue as the season continues. But I'll be keeping a close eye on catching defense really throughout, because there are probably going to be some games where it's a struggle because you just don't have a true defensive catcher on the roster right now that's ready to be an elite defender. I think that Hernandez can get better. I think Cade Arambidi is absolutely going to get better. But it's something to watch, catching defense, for sure. And we'll certainly do that as we move forward. All right, 1 segment to go. We'll play some Take It or Leave It, and that'll do it. You're listening to a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is that website. Safety's important. IIHA Top Safety Award. Every vehicle on the Genesis line got it. Some were Top Safety Picks Plus. They do not take shortcuts with safety. You can get behind the wheel and you can see how comfortable it is. You can see how stylish it is. All the bells and whistles that you could want from the entry level to the highest end vehicle over at Genesis of Baton Rouge. But the safety is the same. because they know how important that is to the car buyer. So if you're looking for a new automobile, you haven't thought about Genesis, I highly, highly recommend you give them a shot. Get on by at Airline near PQ. They're across from Women's Hospital. Just drop in. Tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you. Let one of their brand ambassadors get you behind the wheel. You'll see what the difference is. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find every car that is on the lot online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
.104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge, and Citizens Bank and Trust want to help cover your car payments. It's a $5,000 grand prize with a bonus chance to win free car washes from Vinny's Car Wash for 6 months. We're also letting you earn extra entries by subscribing to our LouisianaSports.net daily newsletter. To sign up, visit 1045ESPN.com.
Very much appreciate those of you who have gone over to LouisianaSports.net, taken in some of our content over there. It's been awesome to see the growth of the site over the last couple of months, and we appreciate you all for seeking it out. If you're unfamiliar, LouisianaSports.net, completely free. No annoying pop-ups or article limits, anything like that. Just a lot of Saints coverage, a lot of LSU coverage, a little bit of Pels as well, some SEC coverage. Myself on the LSU side of things, Ross Jackson on the Saints, Chris Marler on the SEC. Rivers rocking and rolling with things over there. We got a column from Charles Handegriff every week. So lots of great stuff over at LouisianaSports.net. I wrote my Around the Horn column today, which is going to be up every single Monday after a baseball weekend. And it kind of encapsulates the entirety of the weekend as opposed to just the single post-game stories. So get on by and check that out if you're interested in some LSU baseball. It is right there at LouisianaSports.net. And I want to remind you about Gulf Coast Office Products. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products. And the beauty of doing business with the mom and pop shop is that you get great customer service, awesome relationship. They're always going to pick up the phone when you call. But do they have the capabilities to really service all of your needs? You do business with a big box store, might get a great price, but you're going to kind of be a line item. You're going to have to call a recorded line somewhere in Atlanta or San Francisco or something. Gulf Coast Office Products really splits that difference. They've got the resources that you need. They got $1 million of equipment right here in Baton Rouge. They've got a great staff that can get to you statewide. They've also got an unbelievable relationship with their customers. If you do business with Trey Beal, you're going to hear from him. You're going to see him. I got some tickets from him. He's awesome. He's a fantastic guy, and he's great at what he does. Gulf Coast Office Products. You can check him out at gcopnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, it's Gulf Coast Office Products. All right. Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it.
All right, first one here. Reports are circulating that the Cincinnati Bengals are franchise tagging receiver T. Higgins yet again. Take it or leave it.
I mean, I'll take it. It's fine that when we do it, he's going to get cranky. I mean, that's just not going to go well, I don't think. Now, the top 10 wide receivers make a lot of money, so maybe it is enough that he's okay with it, but I kind of doubt it. He's a guy that wants to get his big deal, and a franchise tag is just going to be on a one-year type deal. So I feel like that's going to go south on him. You realize that, like, Jamar's going to get the huge payday, and it's a great place to catch balls because Burrow's so good. But I feel like Higgins is destined for somewhere else this coming season. It just feels like he's not going to play this game.
All right, next one here. The cold is back. Take it or leave it.
Leave it.
Just leave it alone.
It's baseball season. Time to play some golf. It can be 95. That's fine.
Yeah.
Let's just get rid of the cold. We don't need it.
We got a low of 28, I think, Wednesday.
That's stupid. Nobody wants it to be 20.
Doesn't make any sense.
I mean, it was pretty balmy on Saturday.
Yeah.
Box. It was warm. The wind was blowing out. It felt like June out there at the box. I'm of course up in the press box, so I'm not really exposed to all the elements. But yeah, I'm out on the cold. I am excited because I thought you realize, like, when you schedule a trip to North Texas to Frisco in February, which will be February 28th. like it could be freezing. It could easily be in the 30s, and it looks like based on the extended forecast, which of course could change, but I feel like the rain can come and go. They probably have a feel for what the temperature is going to be about 2 weeks out, and it looks like it's going to be comfortable in Frisco, so that's a good thing.
All right, next one here. There were no issues putting the crib back together. Take it or leave it.
We'll take it.
We've
done some assembling. The crib is done, hopefully for the last time. That's what we're telling ourselves. We got it assembled for Myers. Then we had to take it apart to get it out of the old house and get it into the new house, reassemble it for him to sleep in. Then we took him out of that to put him in the big boy bed, and it was just disassembled. Now we had to put it together one more time for new baby, which could come here in the next couple of weeks. So put the crib together yesterday, went off without a hitch, got it done in like 25 minutes. It's ready to rock. So yeah, hopefully that's the last time.
I didn't realize that y'all had already taken it apart and put it back together that many times. So it makes sense that at this point you would have it down pat. But I was worried about you because
we're
you're
not
just not
exactly
very good
the
at those
most what's the word I'm looking for there? No, we're forward thinking. I think that's fine. We're not assembly inclined.
Well, yes, we know that.
So there could still be issues even though we've done it a couple times.
That's true.
That's very much in the realm of possibility. But nothing happened. We're all good. All put together.
All right, last one here. A king cake burger. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it. I'm usually good with like making weird things out of like, I'm fine. Like, you want to make a pizza burger or something, I'll eat that. But like a king cake burger, I don't know if I need like a bunch of sugar.
Yeah. I mean, what is it? Is it
savory patty?
So is it like the bun is just a king cake, basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably good, but it feels, I don't know if I need that much sugar and like icing on a cheeseburger.
I'm not sure that goes together. Maybe it does. I don't know.
It just, again, I'm usually for that stuff. Alyssa hates this stuff. So, like, she won't even put chicken on a pizza, like a barbecue chicken pizza or like a chicken bacon ranch pizza. I think that's great. I'm great with like Alfredo on a pizza. She's like, no, chicken doesn't go on pizza. Like that's how she functions, and I love that kind of stuff usually. But if you're talking king cake burger, I don't know if that's necessarily something that I've got to get into.
Yeah, I'm gonna go against that, I think.
How do we feel about the baseball team playing during the show for the next few days?
It's not great. That's not ideal. But at the same time, we're looking at some pretty mediocre games. So
correct. You're talking about. I think we had this issue 5 times, and one of them we avoided on Friday by going an hour early to do the show from the box. So we'll be on during their game tomorrow. They'll play in the afternoon on Friday as well, and then I think next Tuesday, and that I think that's it because the next Friday they're in Frisco, and I'll be there for that. So I think it's just Tuesday, Friday, Tuesday is what I feel like. Maybe is there a Wednesday game next week? There's a Wednesday game this week, but it's in Thibodaux.
There is a Wednesday game next week, but it is the college. That's the start. They're playing Dallas Baptist.
Oh, it's in Globe Life. I remember that. Yes, you're right. So never mind. So I lied. Maybe we just only have 2 issues now this moving forward tomorrow and Friday. So that's good.
Looks like it.
And I think I'm going to scurry out of here on Friday after the show ends to get to post game for baseball. So usually Alyssa can get the little man from school on Friday, and I can get over there. So that's so we're really just kind of airballing once. That's tomorrow. So tomorrow for the show we'll have the lineup for the game against Southern. Tomorrow, right when we go on at 1:00, I'll go through kind of my thoughts on that. We'll preview that game. We'll also talk to Glenn West, probably from the box. And then in the second hour, we'll talk to Sharif on the Saints, and also Kurt Schilling, MLB legend, is going to stop by. If you recall, when I was on Radio Row at the Super Bowl, we had Kurt Schilling booked, but he wasn't able to get to us. He was long on a couple shows before us, and they kind of felt bad, I think, and they said, well, can he come on a little bit later? I was like, yes, I would love to talk to Kurt Schilling. So we'll do that coming up on tomorrow's show in the second hour while LSU's playing at Summit Baseball. Missed any of the show today? You can catch it on demand wherever you find your podcast. Just search Hunt Palmer Show. We certainly appreciate it. Matt's going to drive you home. Coming up next, we're back tomorrow, same time, same place, for a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.